Hi there, my name's Andy Marlowe. I'm ADC Scouts for Leatherhead District. In this demonstration, I'm going to be showing you how to make bannock bread. Bannock is a simple flat bread that we often use when we do expedition challenges or do survival skills camps. Part of my role is to teach scout leaders in Surrey how to deliver the survival skills badge to scouts. As part of that, we do bannock bread. Bannock bread has 3 simple ingredients. It has plain flour, milk powder and baking powder. We'll also need some oil and some water. So the method we're going to be using is the 3-2-1 method. That's 3 handfuls of flour. In this case, plain flour. You could use any old flour. The cheap stuff's normally okay. 2 handfuls of milk powder and 1 at most teaspoon of baking powder. You'll probably only need a small pinch though. So I'm going to start. There's 1, 2, 3. You'll notice I'm only using one of my hands to handle the ingredients and do any of the mixing. This means that I keep one of my hands as clean as possible. 1, 2. And finally, a little pinch of baking powder. We're going to mix all these dry ingredients together so that we spread out the baking powder. We don't want humps of baking powder in the mix. And then we're going to slowly add water until it becomes a dough consistency like you would normally get for bread. Or if you like to make your own pizza bases, it's a very similar consistency to that as well. At this point, if you wanted to, you could add some other flavourings in. You could make it a sweet bannock by adding sugar, maybe some raisins, or any sort of dried fruit. We often find that if you soak the dried fruit in some sort of liquid like apple juice, or if you're an adult, maybe some sort of alcohol, you might find that it gives you a much moister bannock and makes it last for a little bit longer. You can alternatively add savoury items, so you could add onion, cooked onion and garlic, or you can press the cooked onion and garlic into the bannock once you're frying it off. So this should all start to come together. You'll go to sort of breadcrumb type consistency first and then start to bind together as you're pulling all the dry ingredients off the edge of the bowl. If you get a bit over the top with the water, just add a little bit of extra flour back in. If you go rather over the top with the water, you might have to add a little bit of milk powder in to keep the ratios up. If you didn't have milk powder, you could add extra flour in and just use real milk instead of water. This is coming together now, so I'm just going to knead it a little bit in the bowl to hopefully get the last of the little bits off the edge of the bowl. If I now hold it with my other hand, you should see it shouldn't stick. That there is a good bit of bannock dough. Now what we need to do is fry it off. There'll come a point that you've got bannock bread all over your fingers. Instead of running this under the tap or putting it in a bowl full of water, because that will make it all go like glue, just rub your hands together and you'll find that all the dough starts to just come off your fingers and in my case I'm doing it over my compost heap. However, you probably want to do it over the fire or into a bin. Hands are clean. So now we need to cook the bannock. We're going to take our dough and we're going to smush it into a round shape, into essentially what looks like a pizza base, or if you want to make a bit more rustic looking, you can make it into more of a sort of naan bread or pita bread type shape. You're aiming to get it as thin as possible in the bottom of your frying pan. So once we've got it there, we're going to put a little bit of oil into the pan, because we just don't want this bannock to stick to it. Scout frying pans are normally traditionally very not non-stick, whereas the one I've got here is, so I don't need that much at all. I'm going to, in my case, turn on the heat, get the pan nice and hot. In your case, you'd probably be putting this on a fire. Place the bannock in the pan, making sure it's not going to stick. So when we get to a certain point, you should be able to turn the bread over and you'll see we've got a nice bit of colour on the outside. We need to repeat that on the other side as well, and then once they're both the same, we're going to turn the heat down, or if it's on a fire, pull it towards the edge and let it develop. So now we've got a bit of colour on both sides of the bannock. So there's one side and the original side. We're going to put it on back on the heat, but down really, really low. In my case, as low as my stove will go, but in the case of using a fire, you put it right to the edge of the fire in what we would call a 3-second heat. That is, you can put your hand just in front of the food you're cooking, and only for about 3 seconds. If you can hold it there for longer, it's not hot enough. If you can barely get your hand in there, it's too hot. Because I'm cooking this in a pan on a stove and I haven't quite got the right heat, radiating heat coming in, I'm just going to use a bit of foil to act as a lid. If you're doing this at home, you could probably use a pan lid. So after about 10-15 minutes, when you're happy that the dough has puffed up enough, you've got enough air in there, we can turn the heat off. In my case, we take the frying pan off the fire. And you should have a really nice puffed up bannock bread, which is about twice the thickness of the one you would have had before, when you put it in. And what you should be able to see is there's some nice air bubbles in the middle there, where it started to puff up. If you took a knife, in fact, if it was cool enough, you could break into the middle and it would act like a bit of pita bread. So there we have it. Bannock bread, suitable for trail, any sort of trail or expedition. You can put the dry ingredients in a bag and take it with you, and then all you need to do is add water and build up a fire when you get to site. You can cook it at breakfast time and take it out for lunch, meaning your scout leaders don't have to go and buy loaves of bread. All in all, quite a good little recipe, if I don't say so myself.